The council had gathered in the largest chamber of their orbital station, a place that seemed to float above 1,000 stars. Each member of the council came from a different corner of the galaxy. Their species varied, some towering and armored, some delicate and shimmering, and some that humans could never have imagined. They had observed humanity for decades, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with amusement, and sometimes with disdain. In their eyes, humans were small, emotional, unpredictable, and entirely unprepared for the challenges of the larger universe. For years, the council had debated quietly among themselves. Every simulation they ran, every projection they calculated ended the same way. Earth would fall quickly. Within hours, the humans would be defeated. Their armies were limited, their weapons primitive compared to the fleets and technologies that the council could bring to bear. It was a conclusion that none of them questioned. Even the youngest members of the council spoke with certainty, their voices carrying the confidence of superiority. By the time they can respond, it will already be too late, one of the counselors said, a being whose skin shifted colors depending on its mood. They lacked the scale, the organization, and the understanding of warfare beyond their planet. Hours, maybe less. The others nodded, some almost impatient with the discussion. In the grand viewports of the chamber, the Earth spun quietly, blue and green, peaceful and small, unaware that decisions about its future were being made thousands of kilometers away, far above its atmosphere. The council had not considered humans as enemies. They had always seen them as a minor curiosity, a species on the edge of civilization, prone to irrational behavior and internal conflicts. Yet now the humans had refused to surrender. They had refused to accept the council's demands that Earth open its systems and resources to interstellar governance. That refusal was seen as boldness and, perhaps in the eyes of the council, stupidity. As the final decisions were made, orders were sent across the galaxy. Ships were prepared, fleets assembled, and weapons primed. The council even broadcasted their predictions openly. Every advanced civilization that could access their networks was told. Earth would fall in hours. It became almost a spectacle. Some species expressed pity, some amusement, and others simply turned away, uninterested in what they believed would be a short, inconsequential fight. Meanwhile, on Earth, no one noticed the whispers of the council. Life continued as usual for billions of humans. Children played in the streets, families shared meals, scientists worked in labs, and leaders debated policies. There were tensions, certainly, but nothing prepared the human population for the enormity of what was coming. Yet in select corners of Earth, preparations were underway. Not everyone knew about the fleets gathering in orbit, nor the alien predictions, but there were those who had always looked to the stars and wondered what would happen if humanity were challenged. The humans who prepared did so quietly. They had no desire to broadcast their plans or brag about their readiness. Instead, they focused on the details. Their engineers worked on ships that could move faster than any conventional vessel. Their strategists studied every scenario, from the obvious to the nearly impossible. Their soldiers trained relentlessly, not in the hope of war, but in the understanding that survival often required preparation. The council, on the other hand, could not see this. They only saw the numbers, the apparent weaknesses, the size of the human fleets compared to the fleets of the galaxy's dominant powers. In their simulations, Earth's response was slow, uncoordinated, and chaotic. That was the picture they carried into the first moments of confrontation. They predicted the humans would falter immediately. In the Council's view, the humans were predictable because they had always been predictable. History on Earth had shown a species often divided, frequently fighting itself, rarely capable of large-scale cooperation outside of temporary crises. The Council calculated that these tendencies would repeat on a galactic scale. If humans could not even unite under a single flag, how could they possibly face a fleet capable of wiping out cities from orbit? And yet there was something that the Council overlooked, something that no amount of data or simulation could capture: the human spirit. The humans who prepared were not doing so for pride or glory. They were preparing because they had learned from every mistake, from every threat that had ever touched their planet. They were small in size compared to the fleets gathering above, but they were enormous in resolve. Their unity was not forced. It was chosen. When they came together, they did so with a focus and determination that no machine, no simulation, and no council could anticipate. The council spent hours debating the timing of their attack. Some wanted to strike immediately, believing that hesitation could give the humans time to adapt. Others argued that a slow approach would allow them to observe, to savor the spectacle of human defeat. In the end, they settled on a schedule that reflected confidence rather than caution. The humans, in the Council's eyes, had no chance to surprise them. Back on Earth, a small group of human commanders watched the skies with quiet intensity. They did not panic when the fleets arrived, nor did they make grand speeches. They moved with precision, checking every system, confirming every calculation, coordinating their efforts through networks invisible to the aliens. Every human involved understood the stakes, yet there was a calm that came not from ignorance but from preparation. In those final hours before the first strike, Earth seemed to hold its breath. Cities continued their routines, unaware of the fleets approaching from the void. Scientists monitored anomalies, engineers verified energy grids, and military strategists reviewed their plans. No one spoke of surrender or fear. The humans understood that what was coming would test them, perhaps even destroy them. But they also understood that their survival depended on discipline, coordination, and an unwavering belief in their ability to endure. The Council, meanwhile, monitored every signal, every movement, every data feed. Their projections were meticulous, their confidence unshakable. Hours would be enough, they thought. Hours, and the humans would crumble. And yet the Council had no way to account for the choices humans made when faced with the impossible. No algorithm could predict courage, ingenuity, or the silent, determined will to survive. As the fleets drew closer, the Council prepared to witness what they assumed would be a routine victory. Their simulations had already painted the picture: explosions on the surface, fleeing human vessels, and a planet forced to surrender. The galaxy expected to witness a swift end, and in those moments, as the Council awaited the unfolding of what they believed would be inevitable, no one suspected that the humans had already set their plans in motion. In the quiet corners of Earth, hidden command centers hummed with activity. Small ships were readied, defense networks activated, and sensors adjusted to detect alien movements in ways the Council had never imagined. The humans were not waiting to be destroyed, they were waiting to strike. And in those moments, the calm on Earth was not fear, but focus. The Council, confident in its predictions, did not notice the subtle signs, the nearly invisible preparations, the layers of strategy that humans had woven over decades. They saw only a planet small and seemingly defenseless, a species predictable and bound to fail. Yet for the first time in the history of human observation, by extraterrestrial powers, the galaxy was about to witness something it had never truly understood: a species underestimated, a spirit unbroken, and a resolve that could not be measured in hours, projections, or simulations. And so the stage was set. The Council's predictions were ready to be proven true, or spectacularly wrong. What the humans did in the next minutes would not just define their survival, but challenge the assumptions of an entire galaxy. The calm before the storm was not empty. It was preparation, focus, and the quiet certainty of those who refused to be defeated. The alien fleet appeared first as tiny points of light in the sky. At first they looked like distant stars, but then they moved, slowly at first, then quickly, in formations that seemed impossible. They filled the orbit around Earth, a mass of ships so enormous that the planet's atmosphere looked almost fragile against it. On the ground, billions of humans watched from space telescopes, satellites, and even the few cities with direct orbital views. People felt a mixture of awe and fear, but the world did not panic. There was too much preparation already underway for fear to take control. The alien commanders, confident and organized, assumed that Earth's response would be chaotic and slow. They expected humans to panic, to flee, to surrender under the weight of overwhelming power. Their ships were massive, capable of firing destructive energy beams across vast distances, and their assault drones could obliterate entire cities without even landing. They had planned everything down to the last detail, certain that resistance would crumble in hours, perhaps minutes, but the humans were ready. Deep underground and across hidden orbital stations, humans had stationed fleets that were far smaller than the alien armada, but far more advanced in ways the aliens could not detect. Their ships were designed for speed, stealth, and precision rather than sheer size. Their weapons did not rely on flashy explosions or blinding energy beams. They were silent, calculated, and devastating. Humans had spent decades developing these technologies in secrecy, learning from every mistake in their history. and understanding that survival required ingenuity rather than brute force. When the first alien ships began to move closer, sensors across the human network activated. Every human ship, satellite, and drone received its position, trajectory, and priority targets in real time. Commands flowed not through voice or text but through secure quantum-linked channels, allowing the entire fleet to act as one, seamlessly. Humans did not hesitate. There was no panic. There was only focus. The first strike came without warning. A small human reconnaissance vessel moved along the edge of the alien formation. It seemed insignificant, almost invisible. Then in an instant, a pulse of energy was released from it, striking one of the largest alien command ships. The alien ship shuddered and then exploded in a quiet, contained implosion that left fragments drifting in space. To the alien commanders, it seemed impossible. How could a single human vessel, so small and apparently insignificant, destroy one of their largest warships? As the minutes passed, more human ships joined the attack. They moved in patterns that the alien fleet could not predict, appearing where they were least expected, striking vital points of power and control. The aliens tried to respond with their massive weapons, but their attacks were slow, cumbersome, and poorly targeted. Their size, which they had always considered an advantage, became a disadvantage against the humans' speed and precision. On Earth, people watched quietly, many unaware of the exact details. In command centers, the human leaders monitored every movement. Their faces were calm, their voices steady. They did not shout orders or make dramatic gestures. They simply ensured that every system functioned correctly, that every ship followed its instructions, and that every human in the fleet understood their role. The humans who were fighting did not think about fear or death. They thought about survival, about protecting their planet, and about striking efficiently to end the conflict quickly. The Alien Council, observing from orbit, could not understand what was happening. Their predictions had been flawless, yet reality was diverging in impossible ways. Ships that should have survived were gone. Communication lines they thought secure were silent. Their fleets, which should have maintained formation and dominance, were being systematically dismantled. Panic began to ripple through the alien ranks, a reaction they had never anticipated in themselves or in their crews. The humans did not celebrate each victory. Every strike was measured, calculated, and followed immediately by the next. Their goal was not to show strength or provoke fear. It was to neutralize threats as efficiently as possible. In those first minutes, they demonstrated that strategy, patience, and preparation could outweigh size and brute power. Each move was deliberate, each decision made with the understanding that mistakes could be fatal, but that confidence and focus could turn the tide of war. While the alien fleet still expected resistance to crumble, their own crews began to lose cohesion. Many ships, once coordinated and proud, drifted helplessly in space after critical systems failed. Sensors that could not detect the human stealth technologies made it impossible for alien captains to respond effectively. Every attack they launched was met with countermeasures that seemed to anticipate their moves before they even made them. In the middle of the chaos, a young human commander observed the battle unfolding. Their team had spent years preparing for this moment, training for scenarios that seemed improbable, but now they were real. The commander's hands moved steadily over the control interface, guiding ships, adjusting trajectories, and initiating precise attacks. There was no hesitation, no panic, no second-guessing. Each decision was made with calm confidence, and each move brought them closer to the unexpected truth. Humans were capable of more than the galaxy had ever imagined. The aliens tried to communicate with Earth, attempting to demand surrender or negotiate a ceasefire. Their transmissions were loud, threatening, filled with confidence in their inevitable victory. But the humans did not respond. They had no intention of surrendering or negotiating under duress. Their silence was a statement in itself, a reflection of their focus and discipline. In that silence, the humans continued their work, dismantling the alien fleet piece by piece. As the minutes passed, the first signs of real fear appeared among the aliens. Their ships, which had once dominated the skies with confidence, now drifted in confusion. Energy cores were failing, command vessels were destroyed, and their fleet was fragmented. The Council had predicted hours of resistance. Instead, they were witnessing the impossible. Humanity was not only surviving, they were winning. On Earth, ordinary people were becoming aware of the battle, though few understood its scale. Satellite feeds showed flashes in space, streaks of light that did not correspond to meteor showers or natural phenomena. News agencies struggled to explain the events without causing mass panic. And yet, despite the chaos, there was a quiet pride among humans everywhere. For the first time in generations, the species collectively faced a challenge unlike any before. And they were not just surviving, they were proving themselves in ways that would be remembered forever. In orbit, the aliens' weapon systems faltered under human attacks. Drones that had been designed to overwhelm human defenses were destroyed before they could even deploy. Communication lines between ships broke down. Commanders on alien vessels tried to coordinate, but the humans' precision movements made coordination nearly impossible. Every strike by humans was surgical, deliberate, and devastating. By the end of the first hour, the alien fleet had suffered significant losses, and their confidence was shattered. The humans themselves did not feel invincible. Every ship lost, every failure was noted and learned from. They were not celebrating victories. They were calculating the next moves. Their focus remained on the mission: protect Earth, neutralize the threat, and survive. Their unity was not blind obedience, but a shared understanding of what was at stake and what needed to be done. By the time the alien fleet began to retreat, confusion had replaced arrogance and fear had replaced confidence. The humans had done what no one expected. They had turned the first strike into a decisive moment. The Council, watching from afar, realized their calculations were wrong. They had assumed humans would fall slowly. Instead, the fight had lasted minutes, not hours. And the humans were not only standing, they were advancing. The aliens regrouped, desperate to understand how a species they considered weak, unprepared, and emotional could achieve such a feat. Their sensors could not detect the subtle systems, the careful coordination, and the years of preparation that humans had invested in secrecy. The humans' calm and focus, their refusal to panic, and their strategic thinking had outmatched what the aliens believed to be superior technology and power. The first strike had ended, but the battle was far from over. The humans had survived the initial assault and struck back with precision. They had shown the galaxy that size and firepower were not the only measures of strength. Ingenuity, preparation, and the will to survive could turn the tide in ways that no one, not even the most advanced alien species, could predict. In those moments, as Earth's quiet defenses continued to monitor the skies, one truth became clear. The humans had turned what should have been hours of struggle into a matter of minutes, and in doing so, they had changed the perception of their species forever. No longer would the galaxy see humans as small, weak, or incapable. They had proven that when faced with extinction, humans could fight, adapt, and triumph in ways that no one had thought possible. The 12 minutes began quietly, almost imperceptibly. From the surface of Earth, nothing seemed to change. Cities carried on their routines, unaware of the precise invisible battle unfolding above them. From orbit, humans were already moving in ways that alien sensors could not detect. Their ships were small, fast, and silent, built not to be seen but to strike exactly where they were needed. For 12 minutes, the balance of power hung on what the humans could accomplish in complete coordination, a feat no alien mind could anticipate. It started with the smallest ships, reconnaissance vessels that slipped past patrols like shadows. They were invisible to alien sensors, too small to appear on any standard display and too fast to be targeted effectively. Yet these ships carried the seeds of destruction. Each carried a single precision strike, designed not for spectacle but for effectiveness. The targets were key alien systems, power cores, navigation nodes, communication hubs. One by one, these invisible weapons struck and the first alien vessels began to falter. On board the human command centers, the scene was calm. Commanders monitored the battle in silence, voices barely above normal conversation, hands moving over controls with precision. Every action was part of a plan that had been tested repeatedly in simulations, adjusted and perfected. Unlike the aliens, humans were not relying on size, on numbers, or on the shock of overwhelming firepower. They relied on timing, coordination, and strategy. Every ship knew its role. Every attack followed the next seamlessly, and every human in the fleet understood that hesitation could mean failure. For the aliens, it was bewildering. Ships that had been secure and untouchable moments before were suddenly disabled or destroyed. Systems that were supposed to prevent attacks failed inexplicably, Communication between ships broke down as humans struck at the central nodes that controlled coordination. They could not understand it, nor could they react fast enough. Every action the humans took seemed to anticipate their responses, as if they were reading the aliens' thoughts before the aliens even made them. On Earth, ordinary people still went about their lives, unaware of the momentous events above them. Satellite feeds and orbital sensors captured flashes of light, subtle shifts, and strange anomalies. But these images were incomprehensible without explanation. People who did notice were amazed, frightened, and fascinated. Yet there was no panic. Somehow humans had trained themselves to trust in their systems, to trust in their preparation, to trust in the decisions made by those guiding the battle. Confidence was not arrogance, it was born of years of study, of understanding, and of relentless preparation. As the minutes ticked by, the alien fleet began to realize the magnitude of what was happening. Their ships, which had once been coordinated and confident, drifted helplessly. Explosions were quiet and contained, almost surgical, leaving wreckage but no chaos. Alien captains tried to redirect forces, to regroup and strike back, but their every move was anticipated. Communications were jammed, navigation systems hacked or disabled, energy cores disrupted. For the first time, the aliens understood what they had never expected. Humans were not only capable of resistance, they were capable of overwhelming them in a way that no simulation could predict. The human fleet worked as a single organism. Every ship acted independently, yet every movement was part of a synchronized plan. Smaller ships attacked weak points while larger vessels provided support and distraction. Defense drones intercepted incoming strikes with precision. Every human crew member knew their task, and they executed it without hesitation. Fear did not exist here. Doubt did not exist. Only focus, only execution, only the clear goal of survival and victory. The aliens began to panic. Their formations broke apart, their strategy collapsing under the humans' precision strikes. Ships that had been built to last centuries were suddenly vulnerable. Drones that had been designed to overwhelm were destroyed before they could act. Command vessels, the largest and most heavily defended, were struck by humans in ways that bypassed shields entirely. In moments, what should have been a slow, steady defeat for humanity became a rapid, staggering disaster for the aliens. From orbit, the view was breathtaking. Human ships moved like streaks of light, almost invisible, yet precise and deadly. Alien vessels were reduced to drifting wreckage, their command structures broken, their crews confused and terrified. Humans did not celebrate each success. They immediately moved to the next objective. There was no time for pride, only the need to end the threat efficiently. Every moment counted, and in those 12 minutes humanity achieved something no one had thought possible. The aliens' sensors were overwhelmed. They tried to fire upon the humans, but the strikes were too late. The humans had moved before the weapons could target them. Defensive shields failed against attacks humans had designed specifically to bypass them. Ships that had been the backbone of the alien fleet were destroyed with minimal human loss. It was as if the humans were dancing through the battlefield, perfectly coordinated and untouchable, yet without hesitation or error. On Earth, the people monitoring the battle understood the significance. Families gathered around displays in command centers, watching flashes of light, streams of data, and tiny visual representations of ships moving in space. Engineers and technicians remained calm, checking systems, adjusting coordinates, and verifying that every strike was successful. There was no fear here, only control and focus. Humanity had prepared for this moment for years, and now it was happening exactly as planned. The 12 minutes passed with devastating efficiency. By the end, the alien fleet had suffered losses unimaginable in the Council's simulations. Ships that had seemed invincible were gone. Command structures were in ruins. Communication lines were down. The aliens who survived were scattered, confused, and disorganized. They had underestimated humans, and now they were paying the price. In the quiet command centers on Earth, humans finally allowed themselves a small sigh of relief. They did not cheer or celebrate loudly. They did not need to. The mission had been executed perfectly, the threat neutralized, and humanity had survived. Their victory was not a matter of luck. It was the result of preparation, intelligence, and focus. They had turned what the aliens predicted would be hours of struggle into minutes of decisive action. The Council, watching from afar, could barely comprehend what had happened. Their predictions, their simulations, their calculations, all were wrong. Humans had acted in ways that no algorithm could anticipate, with courage and intelligence that defied expectation. The alien civilizations that had looked down upon Earth as weak and emotional now had to reconsider everything they believed about humanity. For the humans, the victory was quiet, but profound. They had faced annihilation and survived. They had proven that size, numbers, and conventional power were not the only measures of strength. Ingenuity, unity, focus, and the will to survive could triumph against seemingly impossible odds. The humans had not only survived, they had triumphed in a way that would be remembered for generations. As the alien fleet began to retreat, scattering in confusion and fear, humans maintained vigilance. They knew the battle was not completely over, and they continued to monitor for threats. They repaired and recalibrated systems, ensured that every ship was operational, and prepared for any possible counterattack. Their triumph was careful, deliberate, and responsible. This was not a moment for arrogance, it was a moment for awareness. Humanity had survived, and survival required constant vigilance, and yet even in that quiet, human observers could not help but feel a deep sense of awe. They had faced extinction, stared down a power that should have crushed them, and emerged victorious. In 12 minutes, humans had rewritten the expectations of the galaxy, proving that the human spirit, intelligence, and determination could overcome obstacles far greater than themselves. The 12-minute battle ended, but its effects would last forever. Across Earth, in hidden stations and command centers, humans reflected on what had happened. They understood the scale of what they had achieved, even as the world outside remained largely unaware. In those 12 minutes, humanity had not only defended its planet, they had made a statement to the galaxy. Humans were not weak. Humans were not fragile, and humans could not be underestimated. In space, the alien fleet limped away, fragmented and defeated. The Council had no choice but to acknowledge what had happened. Humans had defied every prediction, shattered every expectation, and emerged victorious in record time. Their intelligence, strategy, and unity had turned a fight that should have lasted hours into a 12-minute triumph. And in doing so, they had made it clear that humanity was a force to be reckoned with, not through sheer firepower, but through focus, preparation, and an unyielding will to survive. The aliens had expected an easy victory. They had counted on their size, their numbers, and their advanced technology to overwhelm Earth's defenses. They had predicted that the humans would panic, flee, or surrender within hours. Instead, the humans had moved with precision, unity, and focus. The 12-minute battle had already shattered expectations, leaving the alien fleet fragmented, confused, and terrified. It was in these moments that the turning point became clear. The aliens were losing not because of weakness in their technology, but because of the humans' determination and adaptability. The alien commanders tried to regroup, but their coordination was gone. Ships that had once been in tight formation now drifted independently, unable to respond effectively to the human attacks. Their energy cores flickered, their shields failed, and communication lines between vessels were jammed or destroyed. Every attempt to regain control only made matters worse. The humans had struck precisely at the points that mattered most, and now the aliens were struggling just to maintain their fleet's cohesion. In the human command centers, calm reigned. Humans were not celebrating, but there was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that the first wave had been handled perfectly. Every strike, every maneuver, and every decision had worked as intended. Yet the humans remained vigilant. They knew that the aliens were still dangerous, that the battle was far from over, and that the next moves would be crucial. Preparation had won them the first fight, but survival depended on persistence and foresight. From Earth's perspective, the alien panic was almost imperceptible at first. Satellites detected anomalies in the alien fleet, strange bursts of energy and sudden loss of ship coordination. The aliens themselves communicated frantic orders, but their attempts to regain control were slow, ineffective, and poorly timed. Their technology, though superior in raw power, could not match the humans' ability to adapt in real time. The aliens were powerful, but humans were smarter in ways the aliens had not expected. The turning point became obvious as humans targeted the alien fleet's command vessels. These were the largest and most important ships, carrying the alien leadership and the central systems that controlled the rest of the fleet. With these vessels disabled, the rest of the fleet was left directionless, no longer able to act as a unified force. Humans did not destroy these ships out of cruelty, they destroyed them out of necessity. Every strike was deliberate, efficient, and designed to end the threat as quickly as possible. As the alien fleet faltered, confusion spread among its crew. Some ships tried to flee, while others attempted to fight back without coordination. Their movements were erratic, their communication lines fragmented. Fear, something the aliens had rarely experienced in their advanced, disciplined culture, spread quickly. They had always believed in control, in the power of strategy and superior numbers. Now they were facing something they could not calculate. Humans who were not just resisting, but actively dismantling their fleet with methodical precision. On Earth, the human leaders monitored every detail. They adjusted coordinates, recalibrated weapons, and issued silent commands to fleets scattered across the solar system. Every human ship acted with intelligence, independently executing maneuvers that aligned perfectly with the overall strategy. There was no hesitation, no confusion, no wasted effort. Humans had learned from history that survival depended on efficiency, preparation, and teamwork. And now, their training and foresight were paying off in ways that no alien had imagined possible. The aliens tried to strike back with overwhelming force. Massive energy beams fired across space, attempting to destroy human ships in one blow. But the humans had anticipated these attacks. Smaller ships moved in unpredictable patterns, making them almost impossible to hit. Larger ships used shields and countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize alien weapons. Each alien strike that failed only strengthened the humans' position, allowing them to continue their methodical dismantling of the enemy fleet. Even the alien council, observing from their distant command station, could not hide their shock. Every calculation, every prediction, every projection had failed. The humans had acted in ways that no simulation could anticipate, demonstrating courage, intelligence, and adaptability that rivaled any species the Council had ever encountered. For the first time, the Council was forced to consider that their assumptions about humanity might be completely wrong. In the midst of the chaos, human crews remained calm. They did not panic, they did not shout, they did not rush. Each member of the fleet understood their role and executed it with precision. Engineers monitored energy flows and weapon systems, adjusting for the slightest changes. Pilots maneuvered through debris fields and fire with calm skill. Strategists calculated trajectories and attack sequences, ensuring that every move contributed to the overall plan. Humans were small compared to the alien fleet, but their unity, intelligence, and focus made them far stronger than anyone had predicted. The turning point of the battle became clear as alien ships began to retreat. They were not retreating to regroup. They were retreating out of fear. The humans had dismantled the fleet's command structure, destroyed critical systems, and demonstrated that their technology and strategy were far more effective than the aliens had expected. Ships that had once seemed invincible were now drifting helplessly. The aliens realized that they were facing a species that could not be defeated through brute force alone. On Earth, people began to sense the significance of what had happened. News feeds, though limited, captured the strange anomalies in orbit, the unexpected flashes of light, and the evidence of alien retreat. Ordinary citizens may not have understood the full scale of the battle, but a quiet awareness spread across the planet. Humanity had survived. They had faced an enemy far more powerful than themselves and had emerged victorious, at least for now. The alien fleet's panic continued to spread. Ships that had tried to flee were caught in crossfire or disabled by precise human attacks. Crews aboard these vessels struggled to understand how a smaller, less technologically advanced species could dismantle their power so efficiently. Their weapons, though destructive, were no match for human intelligence and strategy. The aliens had underestimated humans at their own peril. Every move by humans was deliberate. They did not seek to destroy for the sake of destruction. They sought to end the battle quickly, to neutralize the threat and to protect their planet. Their attacks were surgical, targeting only what was necessary to secure victory. In doing so, they minimized their own losses while maximizing the effect on the alien fleet. The efficiency and focus of the human response shocked the aliens, who had never seen warfare conducted in this manner. The turning point was solidified when the Alien Council realized that their predictions were completely wrong. Humans were not only surviving, they were dominating the battlefield in ways that the Council had never anticipated. Every calculation, every algorithm, every model had failed to account for human ingenuity, courage, and unity. The aliens had assumed weakness, but in truth, They were facing a species that had mastered the art of survival through intelligence, preparation, and focus. As the aliens continued to falter, humans maintained their calm. There was no overconfidence, no recklessness. Every ship, every crew member, every strategist knew that the battle was not over until the threat was completely neutralized. They worked together seamlessly, each move calculated and precise, demonstrating that humanity's strength lay not in size or firepower, but in coordination, intelligence, and resilience. The alien fleet, once confident and dominant, was now in disarray. Ships drifted aimlessly, command structures were broken, and crews were uncertain how to proceed. Their weapon systems, once powerful and deadly, had been neutralized by human strategy and precision. The aliens realized that they had underestimated not just the humans' technology, but their intelligence, their ability to adapt, and their capacity for focus under pressure. On Earth, the people who had prepared for this moment quietly observed the progress of the battle. They did not cheer, they did not shout, they did not panic. They simply monitored the situation, made adjustments, and ensured that every action was executed perfectly. Their calm, their discipline, and their focus had turned what could have been hours of struggle into a decisive turning point, demonstrating that humans were capable of more than the galaxy had ever imagined. By the end of this phase of the battle, it was clear that humanity had achieved the impossible. The aliens, confident in their superiority, had been dismantled through intelligence, preparation, and unity. Humans had turned the tide not with brute force, but with strategy, precision, and determination. They had proven that size, power, and numbers could be overcome by courage, focus, and ingenuity. The turning point had arrived. Humans had survived the initial assault, dismantled the enemy fleet's command structure, and forced the aliens into retreat. The galaxy, which had assumed humans were weak and incapable, now had to reconsider everything it thought it knew. Humanity had demonstrated that strength did not come solely from technology or numbers. It came from intelligence, coordination, and an unyielding will to survive. Even as the alien fleet retreated, humans remained vigilant. They repaired systems, recalibrated weapons, and PR. The aftermath of the initial battle left the alien fleet in chaos. Ships drifted aimlessly through space, some damaged beyond repair, others operating at minimal capacity. Command structures were broken, and crews were overwhelmed with confusion. The humans, however, had not paused to celebrate. They remained vigilant, knowing that even the smallest misstep could allow the aliens to regroup. Their success in the first strike had been decisive, but survival required continued focus, careful strategy, and precise action. On Earth, human command centers were alive with quiet activity. Engineers monitored ship systems, recalibrating weapons and defenses to ensure no weakness remained. Pilots checked trajectories and navigation systems, preparing for any unexpected maneuvers by the aliens. Strategists reviewed the next steps, analyzing every bit of incoming data. Every human involved understood that victory was not achieved by force alone. It was maintained by preparation, discipline, and careful observation. The Alien Council, watching from their distant station, faced a crisis unlike anything they had ever encountered. Their predictions had failed, their strategies had crumbled, and their fleets were in disarray. They had underestimated humans in ways that shook the foundation of their understanding. The creatures who had always relied on size, technology, and overwhelming force now faced a species whose greatest weapon was its intelligence, unity, and adaptability. The Council had to accept an uncomfortable truth. Humans were not just surviving, they were mastering the fight in ways no simulation could predict. In the midst of this chaos, human forces continued to strike with precision. Small, fast-moving ships targeted remaining command vessels and critical systems, ensuring that the aliens could not regain control. Each attack was carefully calculated, designed to minimize unnecessary destruction while maximizing effectiveness. Humans understood that their strength lay in strategy, not recklessness. Every ship, every crew member, and every movement was coordinated to maintain the advantage that had already been gained. The aliens attempted to respond, but their efforts were uncoordinated and ineffective. Communication between their ships remained fragmented, and their attempts to regroup were easily countered by the humans' superior strategy. Alien commanders found themselves reacting rather than leading, forced into defensive maneuvers that exposed their vulnerabilities. What they had believed to be invincible ships and advanced technology were now liabilities in the hands of crews who lacked the humans' focus and discipline. On Earth, ordinary citizens began to hear fragments of the news. Satellite images, live feeds, and scientific reports hinted at the scale of the conflict, though most people could not fully grasp the magnitude. Yet a quiet sense of pride spread across the planet. Humans had faced annihilation and had emerged victorious, not through luck, but through preparation, courage, and unity. Even those who did not directly participate in the battle understood that their species had achieved something extraordinary. Human leaders continued to coordinate every move with calm precision. They were not reckless or impulsive. They were deliberate, ensuring that every action contributed to the overall goal of neutralizing the alien threat. Engineers and technicians worked tirelessly to maintain ships and weapon systems, making adjustments based on real-time observations of the alien fleet. Pilots executed maneuvers with skill and discipline, striking at the weakest points of the enemy formation, while avoiding unnecessary risks. The humans' focus was unwavering, their actions a testament to decades of preparation and study. The Alien Council could no longer ignore the scale of their miscalculation. Their fleets were fragmented, their strategies had failed, and their crews were struggling to maintain cohesion. They realized that the humans' victory was not temporary or accidental. It was the result of intelligence, preparation, and adaptability that the Council had failed to anticipate. For the first time, the Council had to reassess everything they thought they knew about humanity. As the battle continued, humans maintained pressure on the alien fleet. They did not seek unnecessary destruction, but they did not allow the aliens any opportunity to recover. Every strike was calculated, every maneuver deliberate. Small human ships moved quickly, targeting remaining threats with precision. Larger vessels provided support and protection, ensuring that the fleet remained cohesive and effective. Humans acted as a single coordinated force, each member aware of their role and executing it flawlessly. The aliens struggled to comprehend the humans' strategy. They had always relied on overwhelming force and intimidation, assuming that smaller, less advanced species would quickly falter. They had not anticipated intelligence, focus, or unity on this scale. Each alien ship that had survived the initial strikes was now vulnerable, and the humans' calculated approach left no room for recovery. The aliens' confusion and fear grew as they realized that their advantage in size and technology had been neutralized. On Earth, human crews continued to execute their plan with quiet determination. Engineers checked systems, weapons were recalibrated, and navigation adjustments were made in real time. Strategists monitored alien movements, ensuring that every action by the humans maintained their advantage. The discipline and focus of the humans were unparalleled. Even under the most intense pressure, every crew member remained calm, executing their roles with precision and efficiency. The alien fleet, meanwhile, was unraveling. Ships drifted without coordination, and many were destroyed or disabled by precise human strikes. The Council had predicted hours of struggle, but what they observed was the collapse of their fleet within minutes. Humans had turned what should have been a long, drawn-out conflict into a rapid, decisive series of victories. The aliens had underestimated the humans' intelligence, preparation, and unity, and now they were paying the price. Even as the aliens retreated, the humans did not allow them any chance to regroup. They continued to monitor movements, adjust strategies, and strike at vulnerable targets. Each action was deliberate and controlled. The humans understood that true victory required more than defeating an enemy in battle. It required ensuring that the threat could not return. Their approach was methodical, intelligent, and focused on the long-term survival of their species. The Council, forced to confront the reality of the situation, realized that humanity's triumph was not accidental. It was the result of careful planning, relentless training, and an unshakable determination to survive. Humans had faced overwhelming odds and had emerged victorious through intelligence, adaptability, and coordination. The Council could not deny that this species had demonstrated capabilities that far exceeded their expectations. On Earth, the sense of accomplishment among humans was quiet but profound. There was no grand celebration, no reckless jubilation. Instead, there was a calm awareness of what had been achieved. Humans had faced annihilation and emerged victorious. They had demonstrated that their strength did not lie in size or sheer power, but in preparation, intelligence, and unity. Every crew member, every strategist, every engineer had contributed to this triumph, and the results were undeniable. As the alien fleet continued to scatter, humans maintained vigilance. They repaired damaged ships, recalibrated systems, and prepared for any potential counterattack. They understood that survival required continued focus, and that their advantage had to be preserved. Every action taken was deliberate, measured, and precise. Humans had not only defended their planet, they had secured a position of strength that would influence the galaxy for generations to come. The Alien Council, finally acknowledging the full scale of the humans' victory, began to reconsider their assumptions. Humans were not a weak or insignificant species. They were intelligent, adaptable, and united, capable of turning the tide of battle in ways that no one had expected. The Council understood that they had misjudged humanity, and that their future interactions with Earth would have to account for a species whose capabilities were far greater than previously imagined. In those moments, humanity proved something essential not just to the aliens but to themselves. They had faced a threat that could have destroyed them completely, and had triumphed through preparation, focus, and unity. They had demonstrated that survival was not a matter of luck or chance, but of intelligence, strategy, and determination. The humans' victory was complete in its planning and execution, and the galaxy had witnessed a species capable of far more than anyone had believed. Even as calm returned to Earth, humans remained cautious. They continued to monitor the remnants of the alien fleet, ensuring that no hidden threats remained. Every action taken was measured and controlled, reflecting a species that understood the true cost of survival. Humans had achieved the impossible, but they also understood that vigilance, preparation, and intelligence were what would sustain them in the future. The aftermath of this phase of the battle was quiet yet profound. Humans had defended their planet, dismantled an alien fleet, and forced the Council to acknowledge their capabilities. They had acted not out of arrogance or aggression, but out of necessity, strategy, and the will to survive. The galaxy had been forced to reconsider everything it knew about Earth, and humans had proven that their strength lay in their intelligence, unity, and determination. The alien fleet, once a symbol of overwhelming power, had been shattered. Their ships drifted through space, broken, directionless, and confused. The Council's predictions of a swift victory had failed utterly, leaving them scrambling to understand how humans had accomplished what they thought impossible. They had counted on fear, panic, and surrender, yet humanity had displayed courage, intelligence, and unity that no simulation could anticipate. The final stage of the conflict was not a battle of numbers. It was a demonstration of human resolve, strategy, and the will to survive. On Earth, humans continued to monitor every fragment of the alien fleet. They repaired their own ships, recalibrated weapons, and checked every system. There was no overconfidence, no reckless celebration. Each human understood that the battle was not won through a single act, but through careful, continuous action. Their triumph had been achieved through preparation, focus, and discipline, and it would be maintained the same way. The aliens, now in retreat, attempted to regroup, but their confidence was gone. Every remaining ship had witnessed the humans' precision, the strategy, and the relentless coordination that had dismantled their fleet in minutes. Crews were demoralized, unable to understand how a species so small and seemingly weak could achieve such a complete victory. The Council, forced to confront their misjudgment, realized that humans were not merely survivors. They were masters of adaptability and strategy, capable of turning their limitations into advantages. In orbit and across hidden command centers on Earth, humans continued their work. Engineers monitored energy flows and systems, ensuring that every weapon, every ship, and every fleet element was ready for any possibility. Pilots and navigators adjusted positions, optimized trajectories, and ensured that no fragment of the alien fleet could pose a renewed threat. Strategists calculated movements not just for defense, but for complete containment of the remaining alien forces. Every action was deliberate, every decision measured. The humans' victory was not chaotic, it was meticulous. Ordinary people on Earth began to sense the magnitude of what had occurred. Satellite images captured flashes of energy, debris from alien vessels, and patterns that could not be explained as natural phenomena. News reports, though limited and cautious, hinted at the unprecedented success of humanity's defenses. People felt awe, fear, and pride all at once. Across cities, towns, and villages, a quiet awareness settled. Humanity had faced annihilation and had prevailed, not by luck but by intelligence, focus, and unity. The alien fleet's retreat revealed the scale of the humans' strategic brilliance. Ships that were once the pride of alien technology now drifted in space, useless and scattered. Command structures were broken, critical systems destroyed, and crews demoralized. The Council had relied on size, numbers, and firepower, but the humans had relied on something far greater: careful preparation, coordinated action, and an unwavering determination to survive. In doing so, humans had rewritten what the galaxy believed was possible. On Earth, humans remained calm and focused. There was no grand display of triumph, no reckless celebration. Every person involved understood the stakes, that the aliens were still out there and that vigilance was necessary. Engineers repaired ships, pilots recalculated maneuvers, and strategists planned for any potential resurgence. The humans' focus on precision, discipline, and foresight ensured that the victory was complete, sustainable, and undeniable. The Council, forced to reassess, began to acknowledge humanity in ways they never had before. For decades, humans had been dismissed as a small, emotional, and unpredictable species. Now the Council saw humans as intelligent, adaptable, and coordinated. The species that had once seemed weak had demonstrated the capacity to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast one of the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. The perception of Earth and its people had shifted forever. Even as the alien fleet scattered, humans continued to monitor the remnants. Ships were tracked, positions recorded, and strategies adjusted. Humans understood that survival was not just about winning the initial confrontation. It was about ensuring that the threat could not return. They had dismantled the alien fleet not through brute force alone, but through careful, continuous action, demonstrating a level of discipline and intelligence unmatched in the galaxy. The alien crews, witnessing the humans' persistence and skill, felt fear unlike anything they had known. They had relied on technology and numbers, expecting an easy victory. And yet they had been outmaneuvered and outsmarted. Ships that should have been invincible were destroyed. Command structures were broken. The humans had demonstrated that strategy, focus, and unity could overcome even the most powerful technology. The galaxy had witnessed a species capable of extraordinary feats. On Earth, humans quietly reflected on what they had achieved. There was no arrogance, no boastful display. Instead, there was a shared understanding that survival had required intelligence, preparation, and coordination. Each crew member, strategist, and engineer had contributed to the outcome. Every action, every decision, and every movement had played a part in the victory. Humanity had not only survived, they had demonstrated their place in the galaxy as a species that could not be underestimated. The Alien Council, forced to acknowledge their misjudgment, began to plan cautiously for future interactions with Earth. They had assumed that humans were a minor species, incapable of effective resistance. Now they had witnessed humans dismantle a fleet in minutes using strategy, intelligence, and coordination. The Council realized that any future engagement with Earth would require respect for the humans' capabilities and recognition that underestimating them could be catastrophic. Human leaders on Earth maintained vigilance. Even as the immediate threat dissipated, ships were repaired, systems recalibrated, and positions maintained. Every human involved understood that victory required more than defeating an enemy. It required careful, deliberate action to secure survival and maintain readiness. The triumph had been achieved, but it was sustainable because humans continued to act with discipline, focus, and intelligence. As calm returned, ordinary humans across the planet began to grasp the significance. Humanity had faced annihilation yet had emerged victorious. The victory was not a result of chance, it was the product of preparation, strategy, and focus. Humans had proven that size, firepower, or numbers were not the only measures of strength. Intelligence, unity, and determination could achieve what many had considered impossible. The alien fleet, retreating and diminished, left a clear message. Humans were a species to be respected, not underestimated. The Council had to reconsider their assumptions about Earth, recalibrating their strategies and acknowledging that humans had a level of capability they had never predicted. Humanity's victory was more than survival. It was proof of their place in the galaxy as intelligent, adaptable, and coordinated beings. Even in the quiet aftermath, humans maintained readiness. Ships were positioned strategically, Systems monitored and contingency plans remained active. Every movement was calculated, ensuring that the advantage gained in the battle could not be lost. Humanity had demonstrated not just the ability to fight, but the ability to endure, adapt, and secure survival. The galaxy, observing from afar, began to recognize a truth that had been long underestimated. Humans were capable of incredible feats, able to coordinate, strategize, and triumph over overwhelming odds. The species that had seemed insignificant now commanded attention and respect. Humanity's victory was a turning point not only for Earth, but for how the galaxy would perceive intelligence, preparation, and resilience. On Earth, the sense of achievement was profound though quiet. Humans had faced annihilation and survived. They had dismantled a superior fleet and forced the Alien Council to acknowledge their capabilities. Every action, every decision, every moment of preparation had led to this outcome. Humans had not only defended their planet, they had demonstrated the power of intelligence, unity, and focus. The aliens' retreat marked the final phase of the conflict, but it also solidified humanity's reputation in the galaxy. The species that had once been dismissed as small and emotional had proven that it could outthink, outmaneuver, and overcome forces far greater than itself. The victory was complete, and the humans had achieved it not through luck, but through preparation, intelligence, and unwavering focus. As the planet resumed its normal rhythms, humans quietly celebrated their triumph. Engineers checked systems one last time. Pilots returned to their stations, ensuring readiness. Strategists reviewed data and outcomes, noting lessons learned for future preparation. Humanity had faced the impossible and succeeded, proving that intelligence, unity, and resilience were as powerful as any fleet or weapon. In the end, humanity had not just survived, they had triumphed. The Alien Council had misjudged them. The galaxy had underestimated them. And yet humans had shown that preparation, intelligence, and focus could achieve what others had deemed impossible. Earth had been defended. Humanity had proven its resilience. And in doing so, they had changed the perception of their species forever.